The ocean is a place that has always thrived on extremes, a world where survival is a daily gamble, and where evolution sometimes produces creatures so bizarre that they seem to have been designed more for nightmares than nature. Among the rocky reefs and sandy shallows of the Pacific coast, there lurks a fish that defies everything we think we know about intimidation, courtship, and sheer audacity. The sarcastic fringehead. Its name alone hints at something absurd, almost comical. Yet nothing about this fish is trivial when life and death are measured in inches of territory and split-second decisions. Imagine a creature no larger than your hand, with a mouth so disproportionately wide it could swallow your fist, and it does not hesitate to use it, not for feeding, but for battle. The sarcastic fringehead is a master of psychological warfare in the animal kingdom, and its battlefield is the intricate network of crevices and shells that make up its coastal home. These fish are rarely seen, yet the few glimpses we have are unforgettable. A blur of neon stripes, bulbous eyes, and a gaping jaw that seems almost human in its expression of mockery or rage. Their appearance is a perfect evolutionary riddle. Unlike the sleek predators that dominate the ocean, these fringeheads have traded speed for spectacle, transforming their mouths into weapons of dominance. But to understand why this fish evolved in such a grotesque yet mesmerizing way, we have to dive deeper into the subtle pressures of its environment. The competition for tiny territories along the intertidal zone, where the space inside a shell can mean survival, reproduction, or total annihilation. The water here is not just a medium, it is a stage for complex social dynamics that we rarely associate with fish. Each crevice is a kingdom, every entrance a portal to confrontation. The sarcastic fringehead does not just live in these spaces, it defends them with a fury that would make predators think twice. And their bizarre mouth-flaring ritual, which has been described as almost theatrical, is not mere posturing. It is a display of evolutionary ingenuity. By inflating their mouths and pressing them against rivals, fringeheads communicate dominance without immediately resorting to mortal combat, minimizing injury while maximizing intimidation. In this way, evolution has sculpted not just a mouth, but a language, a visual lexicon of threat, recognition, and negotiation. Scientists who have studied them in aquariums and in the wild note that no two confrontations are exactly alike. The fish respond to size, color patterns, and even the angle of approach, adjusting their display in real time. Each encounter is a high-stakes negotiation, where a misstep could mean eviction from a prized shell or even death. But the story of the sarcastic fringehead is not confined to these dramatic duels. Their reproductive strategy is equally fascinating and strange. A male will claim a burrow or shell, and it is within this fortress that a female will lay her eggs, trusting him to guard them against intruders. The mouth, once a tool of aggression, becomes a shield, a living barrier between life and lethal threats. And it is this dual function, weapon and protector, that encapsulates the surreal genius of their evolution. Their bodies are compact, muscular, and deceptively fragile-looking, yet every sinew is tuned for this ritualized warfare. Their eyes, perched high and swiveling independently, provide a panoramic awareness that humans can only dream of. They see every potential angle of attack, every shadow of movement in their domain. And yet, despite this incredible adaptation, they are almost entirely unknown outside the scientific community and the small cadre of divers who have been lucky enough to witness their antics. Part of the allure of the sarcastic fringehead is the contrast between the absurdity of its appearance and the deadly seriousness of its behavior. There is a kind of dark comedy in watching a fish that looks cartoonishly grotesque perform deadly serious territorial battles, mouths gaping like overinflated balloons, neon edges flaring as if mocking an intruder for daring to challenge its reign. It is a vivid reminder that evolution does not aim for elegance or beauty, it aims for survival, and sometimes that requires creating forms that make us recoil in fascination or even horror. As we peer into the cracks and shadows of their underwater world, we begin to see not just a single species, but an entire theater of evolution at work, where competition is encoded in anatomy, behavior, and ritual. The sarcastic fringehead becomes a symbol of the ocean's extremes, small, vulnerable, yet capable of performances that are breathtaking in both audacity and effectiveness. Each flare of its mouth, each jittery dart into a shell, each posturing maneuver is a note in a symphony written over millions of years. And what is truly astonishing is how little we understand about the subtle mechanics of their world. For decades, marine biologists have documented their behaviors, but only recently have high-speed cameras revealed the lightning-fast dynamics of their confrontations, the split-second decisions, the precise calculations of jaw expansion, and the silent but deadly intimidation strategies that these fish employ. These small creatures, often no longer than 15 centimeters, demonstrate a sophistication of behavior that challenges our assumptions about intelligence, communication, and the sheer creativity of evolution. And in this very strangeness lies a broader lesson. The ocean, vast and largely unexplored, is a crucible for evolutionary innovation. The sarcastic fringehead is one of its most theatrical products, a creature that forces us to rethink what is possible, to confront the edges of absurdity and brilliance simultaneously. They are not just oddities. They are evolutionary statements, living proof that survival sometimes demands invention so radical that it borders on the surreal. And yet, as we marvel at their grotesque elegance, we are reminded that every act of intimidation, every gaping display, every colorful flare of the neon fringe is a story written in the language of life and death, a story that has unfolded over millennia in the shadowy crevices of a world few of us will ever truly know. In the next layers of their existence, the sarcastic fringehead reveals more than just strange behavior. It unveils a blueprint of survival where grotesque form meets deadly function, and where the smallest actors perform dramas as epic as any predator of the deep. This is a world where science and spectacle collide, where evolution writes in bold strokes, and where even a fish no larger than your hand can command a story that is both terrifying and mesmerizing. Beneath the turbulent waves of the Pacific coast, where sunlight flickers and fades among the jagged rocks, the sarcastic fringehead continues its relentless performance. But here, in the minutiae of their behavior, the true genius of evolution is revealed. Scientists who have spent years observing these fish in controlled environments began to notice patterns that suggested a complexity far beyond the simple notion of territorial aggression. Every movement, every flash of color along the fringes of their oversized mouths carries meaning. The males are masters of visual communication, using their flared jaws almost like banners to convey strength, readiness, and hierarchy, without having to risk injury in actual combat. In this way, evolution has favored brains that can process nuanced social cues, muscles that can respond in milliseconds, and jaws that can expand with alarming speed, creating a living combination of signaling device and shield. High-speed videography reveals that during confrontations, the fringeheads measure their opponents with near-surgical precision. The gape of the mouth is not uniform. It expands differently depending on the perceived threat. A smaller rival may provoke a modest flare, a silent warning. A larger intruder, however, triggers a jaw expansion so extreme that the fish becomes almost comically disproportionate, its head swelling into a grotesque mask of dominance. This is no random display. It is calculated, biomechanically precise, and terrifyingly effective. The physics behind this jaw extension are fascinating. The fish's ligaments and muscles operate under a principle akin to a spring-loaded catapult. With a sudden contraction, the jaw protrudes outward, expanding up to 1/3 of the fish's body length in a fraction of a second. In the fluid environment of water, this creates a shock of intimidation, a visual explosion that is both threat and warning, compelling most rivals to retreat rather than risk collision with a creature so absurdly equipped for combat. Yet, this behavior is not solely for show. It has direct consequences for survival. Fringeheads that fail to master these displays risk injury or displacement. Every battle avoided through display, rather than physical combat, increases the individual's lifespan, allowing more time for reproduction and territory maintenance. Natural selection, in essence, has sculpted a species that fights with its face before it fights with its body, turning grotesque exaggeration into evolutionary currency. Their aggression is tempered by remarkable strategic thinking. Observational studies have documented fringeheads retreating into their shells at the precise moment an opponent overextends, only to counterattack when the rival is most vulnerable. It is a choreography of violence, a ritualized battle dance owned over millennia. Each encounter is an improvisation, yet it adheres to the rules of engagement, dictated by evolution itself. Beyond combat, the fringehead's reproductive strategies offer a glimpse into another layer of their extraordinary existence. A male's burrow is not just a home. It is a fortress and a nursery. Females inspect the entrance, often flaring their own, smaller mouths in response to male display, as though reading the readiness and strength of a potential mate. Once she enters, the male guards the eggs with an almost obsessive vigilance, keeping intruders at bay with threats, sudden bursts of motion, and jaw-flaring demonstrations that remind the underwater world of his ownership. Studies indicate that successful males exhibit a remarkable balance of aggression and restraint. Too aggressive, and they may injure themselves or frighten females away. Too passive, and their burrow and their genetic legacy may be seized by rivals. In this delicate balance, the fringehead exemplifies the intricate calculus of evolution, where survival and reproduction demand a combination of showmanship, courage, and adaptability. Beyond reproduction, their sensory adaptations further underscore the sophistication of these small predators. Their eyes, situated high on the head, swivel independently to provide panoramic awareness, allowing the fringehead to monitor both predator and competitor simultaneously. Their lateral line, an organ sensitive to vibrations, detects even the faintest ripple of approaching danger, enabling them to prepare for conflict before it is visible to the human eye. Together, these adaptations create a predator that is hyper-aware, reactive, and capable of astonishingly fast decision-making, all within a body smaller than a human hand. Observers have noted that the fringehead's coloration, subtle yet striking, also plays a critical role in communication. Iridescent stripes along the mouth flare brightly during confrontation, while darker, muted patterns along the body signal submission or retreat. These visual cues, combined with jaw expansion, create a layered language that is part threat, part invitation, part negotiation. It is a language shaped entirely by the pressures of survival in a confined, competitive habitat, where miscommunication can be fatal. But perhaps the most astonishing aspect of the sarcastic fringehead's life is the intensity with which they live in these microcosms. The intertidal zone is a place of constant flux. Waves crash with relentless force, predators lurk unseen, and human activity encroaches unpredictably. Each crevice that a fringehead calls home is both sanctuary and stage, a fragile dominion that must be defended against a world far larger and more dangerous than itself. In this context, their aggressive theatrics are not mere absurdity. They are precision adaptations for a chaotic and hostile environment. Scientists have even begun to draw parallels between the fringehead's behaviors and complex social interactions seen in mammals. The ritualized confrontations, negotiation through display, and cooperative defense of offspring suggest a level of social cognition rarely attributed to fish. Observations reveal that fringeheads learn from experience. A male that loses a contest may avoid direct confrontation with the same opponent in the future, adjusting both strategy and display. This capacity for memory, risk assessment, and behavioral adaptation elevates them from curiosity to case study, a window into the evolutionary underpinnings of social intelligence. And yet, despite all this sophistication, the fringehead remains unpredictable. Environmental changes, temperature shifts, ocean acidification, pollution introduce variables that even evolution's careful calculus cannot fully account for. Researchers note that fringeheads sometimes behave in ways that seem irrational, leaving their burrows, challenging stronger rivals, or adopting unconventional defensive postures. In these moments, we glimpse the tension between instinct, environmental pressure, and chance, a reminder that even highly optimized evolutionary strategies are never guarantees. Their life, small as it may seem, is a testament to the precariousness of existence in the wild. As we watch them flare and retreat, expand and contract, we see a choreography written not by human hand, but by millions of years of natural selection, shaped by necessity, danger, and the relentless pursuit of survival. The sarcastic fringehead is a creature that thrives on extremes, living on the knife edge between audacity and vulnerability, a master of both visual spectacle and tactical warfare. Its life is a delicate balance of aggression, defense, and subtle social negotiation, a testament to the ingenuity of evolution in the smallest and strangest corners of the natural world. In this underwater theater, the fringehead's grotesque display is no accident. It is an evolutionary symphony, where every flare, every twist of the body, every dart into a crevice is an expression of life and death, of genetic legacy and ecological mastery. And in observing these creatures, we gain insight not only into their bizarre world, but into the very processes that shape life itself, the invisible pressures that mold anatomy, behavior, and intelligence into forms that are at once shocking, captivating, and utterly logical in the cold calculus of survival. As the sun dips below the jagged horizon, casting long shadows over the rocky intertidal zones, we begin to see the sarcastic fringehead not just as a creature of spectacle, but as a profound emblem of life's fragility and ingenuity. Even in the relative safety of their crevices, these fish are vulnerable to forces beyond their control. Predators larger than themselves, sudden shifts in currents, or the subtle yet insidious changes wrought by human activity, pollution, warming waters, and habitat disruption. Each display, each expansion of their grotesquely magnificent mouths, becomes a fleeting assertion of dominance in a world where stability is an illusion. Unlike the deep-sea leviathans whose size shields them from many pressures, the fringehead lives in constant negotiation with both space and time. Their existence is ephemeral in the grand scale of evolution, yet every interaction, every ritualized duel, carries weight that echoes far beyond their tiny bodies. As we trace their life cycles, we confront the broader question of extinction and adaptation. Species like the fringehead, specialized and extreme, are finely tuned to their niche, yet that very specialization makes them vulnerable to rapid environmental shifts. In this, they are mirrors to countless forms of life past and present, a living reminder that evolution is both brilliant and cruel. It rewards ingenuity, exaggeration, and spectacle, but offers no immunity to the whims of change. Their grotesque displays, so central to their survival and reproduction, may one day be insufficient in a world that humans are rapidly altering. And yet, there is beauty even in this precariousness. Watching a fringehead confront an intruder, mouth inflated to absurd proportions, flaring neon fringes like banners of evolutionary defiance, we see a story of resilience written in the language of extremes. Every nuance of movement, every flash of color, is a testament to the countless generations that refined this behavior, the millions of years over which selective pressure owned both form and instinct. Their strangeness is not eccentricity. It is efficiency perfected through relentless trial and error. But as we reflect on their survival, we also encounter a philosophical truth. The grotesque, the strange, and the horrifying are often inseparable from the profound mechanisms of life. In the sarcastic fringehead, the boundaries between fear, fascination, and understanding blur. Its oversized mouth, flaring in mockery or threat, reminds us that evolution is an artist unbound by aesthetics, a sculptor whose medium is necessity, whose goal is persistence. These fish challenge our human notions of beauty and intelligence, forcing us to reconsider what counts as sophisticated behavior, what counts as success in the relentless theater of life. There is an almost tragic grandeur in this small creature, living its brief, high-stakes existence with such audacity. For every fringehead that triumphs in its territorial battles, countless others fail, displaced or consumed, their grotesque flares silenced forever. Yet the species endures, a living archive of evolutionary strategies that balance aggression with prudence, spectacle with survival. And as we consider the implications for other species, both seen and unseen, we realize that the fringehead story is emblematic of life itself. A story of adaptation, resilience, and the delicate interplay of form, function, and environment. The grotesque, the comical, and the terrifying are not anomalies. They are necessary experiments in the laboratory of evolution, each one a chapter in the ongoing narrative of existence. In the quiet aftermath of a confrontation, when a fringehead retreats into the safety of its shell, the ocean seems to exhale, and we are left with a moment of reflection. Here, in the interplay of shadow, color, and movement, we glimpse the extraordinary capacity of life to innovate, to survive, and to thrive in forms that challenge our understanding and imagination. And perhaps, in the strange and terrifying smile of a sarcastic fringehead, we are reminded that the world is vaster, stranger, and more intricate than we often allow ourselves to see. Their mouths may gape in mockery, but they also gape in revelation, showing us a fragment of the complexity that underlies every corner of the natural world. In the end, the sarcastic fringehead is more than a fish. It is a mirror held up to life itself, a small, absurd, grotesque, and brilliant testament to the ingenuity of evolution. It asks us to reconsider our assumptions, to embrace the strange and uncomfortable truths of survival, and to recognize that in every exaggerated display, every ritualized confrontation, lies a lesson about persistence, adaptation, and the fleeting yet magnificent dance of life. As the tide recedes and the reefs fall silent, the fringeheads disappear into their crevices, leaving us to ponder not just the mechanics of their grotesque displays, but the profound reality that all life, in its endless forms, is a narrative of struggle, creativity, and fleeting triumphs. In their strangeness, there is wisdom. In their audacity, a reflection of life's relentless drive. And in that reflection, we find a quiet, unsettling, and beautiful understanding of the extraordinary complexity and delicate vulnerability that define every living being, from the tiniest fringehead to the vastest predator, in the ever-shifting theater of the natural world.